All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Everybody doing okay? It's hot. It's hot. So, as I said, my name's Greg. I have a great job. I get to work at Duke University. I'm the sports psychologist there, so I work every day with our coaches and athletes, trying to help them on their mental approach to the game. I work with probably at least 12 to 15 professional athletes. I'm on staff with USA Track and Field, so I work a lot with our Olympic track athletes. I have a great job. I get to work with people who are very successful every day. So athletes, what I want to do is throw some things out at you to get you to think about, and then parents, I'd like to throw some things out at you to get you to think about a few things. And let's talk here. I'm not going to just stand up here and lecture to you. I have children of my own. One of my kids is here in this tournament. First time ever. I've been here doing this for 8 years. My son, a 7th grader, rising 7th grader, is going to be playing. Actually, unfortunately, he's playing right now. Not great timing here, right? But so I'm right there with you guys. Hey, athletes, I'd like you guys to do me a favor. Can you cross your arms for me? You guys cross your arms. So every time you cross your parents, you can do it too if you want. Cross your arms. Every time you do this, this is how you cross your arms, right? It's a habit. That's how you do it. Now I want you to unfold them, and then I want you to fold them back and do it just the opposite of the way that you just did it. Totally opposite. And how's that feel? Feels a little weird, right? Yeah, it feels a little awkward. All right, you can let it go. So, athletes, some of you have really bad habits mentally. You work hours and hours and hours training yourself to go do your thing, and then you get out there, your mind totally gets in the way of allowing you to do what you've been training yourself to do because you get too nervous or you start thinking way too much. I guarantee you, if I were to ask you, when do you play your best, what does that look like and feel like? You're going to tell me I'm relaxed, I'm having fun, I'm connected with my teammates. Am I right? I'm not thinking. When you don't play well, I guarantee you, you're going to say things like, I'm thinking too much, I'm afraid to make mistakes, I'm thinking too much about what mom or dad are thinking, or I'm worried about letting my teammates down, or whatever. And that's where I come in. I really try to help athletes think the right way and do things different mentally. So as we go through here, athletes, I'm going to think about one thing that you might change. The habit that you have, how can you maybe do it a little bit differently than the way you do it now? All right? So athletes, let's talk about practice. Anybody love practice? Most people don't love practice. I work with professional athletes that don't love practice. First thing I'm going to say about practice, athletes, I have to go to practice. I get to go to practice. I want to go to practice. I want you to think about that. If you regularly say, I have to go to practice today, you will not get as much out of that if you look at it like, you know what? This is really hot out here today, or it's really cold, or I'm really tired, or it's really early, but you know what? I get to go to practice today because it's going to help me get a little bit better. The best athletes I ever work with, man, we don't say that phrase out loud. You might be thinking it, but when you're on a team, you don't say that out loud. As an athlete, that might be a habit you need to change. Stop saying every time, I have to go to practice. Don't do that. Look at it like, I get to. Okay? I get to go to practice today. And if you're looking at it like, I want to, wow, that's amazing. That is amazing because you truly love it, right? I also would tell you that where I am, we don't talk about the difference between winning and losing. That's not where we are. We talk about the difference between winning, being winners, and being champions. Champions do things differently than winners do. Champions go to the line every time in conditioning drills. Champions stay after 10 or 15 minutes after practice when everybody else is leaving, and maybe they ask one of their teammates to stick around and do a little bit of extra work. Maybe you come early, hey mom, can we get to practice 15 minutes early so that I can work on my game? Or rather than playing hours and hours of video games, you play for an hour as he talked about earlier, and then you go play wall ball for a little bit, or you go do something. The best athletes I've ever been around, they spend a little bit of extra time. And here's the deal, athletes. If you don't ever spend extra time on your craft, whatever sport you're in, you will probably, very likely, never be great at your sport. You can't just show up, work really hard, have a great attitude, and be a great teammate. That doesn't make you great, and that doesn't make you a champion, and it doesn't make you a leader either. Neither one of those. Because that should be the minimum. That's a minimum if you're on a team. You've got to do extra stuff. Practice also. Athletes, when you're at practice, Raise your hand if you ever think about food while you're in practice. Raise your hand. Come on. Don't lie. Come on, the rest of you need to raise your hand. Yes. How about during school, when you're at school and you got a test tomorrow and you haven't really prepared for it yet, and if you care at all about school, how many of you ever think about school while you're at practice? Anybody ever do that? Yeah. And then how about this, athletes? When you go home at night, practice didn't go well, and while you're trying to study for that test, what are you probably thinking about while you're trying to study for that test? And practice didn't go well. So while you're at practice, you're going to think about school, and while you're thinking about school, or focused on school, you're going to think about practice. One of the things that we talk a lot about, it might sound a little cliche, but here's another thing you might need to change, athletes. You need to learn to be where your feet are. Like right now, your feet are here with me. And I always tell athletes, well, you guys have gotten really good at acting like you're paying attention. You look and you even nod your head every now and then. You're not listening to me. You think about what you're going to do tonight, what we're going to have for dinner, or how much our team stunk earlier, how crappy I played, or what's going to happen tomorrow. Oh, we got to play that team tomorrow. You're looking at me, but you're not really paying. Your feet are here, but mentally and emotionally you're somewhere else. So I would tell you, here's one of our basketball players. Here's what he did. Every day he would go to practice. He would take his street clothes off. He puts his practice uniform on. He goes from being Clark Kent to being Superman. And if you think about it, Clark Kent looks one way. Superman looks another way. When you have your practice uniform on, you're not a student. You're not a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You're not a friend. You're not anything but an athlete. And if you can truly learn how to do that, for you, maybe it's when you close the gate behind you, or maybe it's when you step across the white line. That's your signal for the next 2 hours. I am just going to be an athlete right now. I'm nothing else. Nothing else. Because how much can you do about that math test while you're at practice? What do you think? Can you do anything about it? No, you can't do anything about that. There's a guy that I work with in the NFL. I know he's a grown man, but I think you guys can learn something from him too. He uses his shower. You guys always shower after practice at some point, right? We do that. You shower after practice? I hope so, right? Yes. So at some point, but every time, not every now and then, every single time he's in that shower, here's what he does. All right, today sucked. Today was not very good at all. Today I played like crap today. Here's why. I didn't get enough sleep, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. What am I going to do tomorrow, or the next time I'm in this situation? What am I going to do differently? Wow, it went well today. Why did it go well? You know what? Because I took care of myself. I got good sleep. I wasn't worrying about anything else. I was just focused on what I was trying to do. And then he sort of looks at that shower as a time to wash everything away, puts his street clothes on, and then he goes on to do his other thing. Parents, we can learn from that. We can learn to be where our feet are a little bit better. Would you guys agree with that? One of the things I've tried to start doing is when I go home at night, I always make sure I change my clothes when I walk through the front door. And put clothes on that are sort of in this role now. Now I'm kind of in dad role now. Now I'm in this role. I get out of that other role that I'm in. We could talk a lot about that, but we won't do that right now. Athletes, you need to have a purpose for practice every day from now on. There's no such thing as I'm just going to show up and we'll kind of see what happens today. Peyton Manning, when he was playing, stand around in a circle and tell 4 other guys what his purpose for practice was today. They all had to tell each other. If somebody were to point to you and say, what is your purpose for practice today? Would you have any idea? If not, I'm not sure you're ever going to be great. Champions do everything with a purpose. So how about this? From now on, if you're in 6th grade or you're in 12th grade, you ought to be thinking every day, what is my purpose for practice today? Coach K regularly points guys out right before practice while they're stretching, and they'll walk around and he'll say, what is your purpose for practice today? The guy has to tell Coach Sanowski, our men's lacrosse coach, same thing. Our women's team, they will lay there quietly and imagine all the things they got going on in their life, and then they will let that go, and then they focus on their purpose for practice. Before practice ever starts, every day. There's a team in the NBA I work with. They write down their purpose on a whiteboard as they walk into the gym. Here's something I'm going to get better at today. Every day, you're getting better or you're getting worse. There's no such thing as I'm just going to kind of show up. If you're taking this game seriously, you've got to look at it like that, all right? Another thing about practice, well, we're going to move on from practice because I know you guys don't want to hear that much about practice. Confidence. Athletes, can you guys tell somebody right there next to you? And if you need to move, you can tell a parent or somebody, but I want you to tell them where you get confidence from. Like, if you can think about confidence, where does that come from for you? Tell your teammate, if you have a teammate, you guys tell each other where you get your confidence from. Go. Verbalize it out loud. Tell them where you get it. Where does confidence come from for you? All right. You guys do that? So how about this? I bet if you listen to me real quickly, I bet many of you said things that were completely out of your control. They were external things like my mom or dad, my teammates, my coaches, my friends, my girlfriend or my boyfriend or other people. If I'm your coach and you every day look to me to give you confidence, what happens on those days when I don't compliment you or I don't give you confidence? What happens? It starts to affect our confidence, right? See, here's the thing. Some of you need to change this. You need to change looking at confidence like it's a gift. And you look at everybody, I'm going to wrap it up and I'm just going to give you confidence. Because you need me to say the right things to you. And you need me to say this and you need me to say that. I'm going to tell you guys, that's not genuine confidence. And girls, you guys are harder on yourselves than boys. I always use this analogy. The boy could be the scrawniest kid in school and he looks in the mirror and he's thinking, man, I look jacked today. Look how good I look. Girls look in the mirror and they see something very, very differently, much harder on themselves, right? At this age. A lot of times that confidence is a little bit false, I would argue, for boys. Confidence comes from you, nowhere else. It comes from having some success. Would you guys agree with that? So athletes, if you're a goalie and the only way you define success for you is that I'm going to save 60% of my shots, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to regularly fail. You are not going to be confident because you're failing every day. I work with a lot of baseball players. 70% of the time they fail. Think about that. You can be a Hall of Famer and be successful 3 out of 10 times. They have to learn how to deal with failure. And if you're attack and your only thing you base on your success is how many goals you score in every game, you're going to fail regularly. What happens when you play against really good defenders? It's real easy to have a lot of great goals when you're playing against somebody who's not very good. But when you start playing people who are really good, or if the only way you define success is did we win or not, I'm going to tell you, you need to redefine what success is. And it needs to be more about things that you're in control of. Like what your attitude's like, or how you do this, or what you do in terms of getting ground balls and doing those kinds of things. That's the kind of stuff that you need to focus on when you're thinking about your success. That's really, really important. Athletes, I would also tell you, sometimes you got to fake it until you make it when it comes to your confidence. There's some college coaches here, right? You guys how many of you hope a college coach watches you at some point while you're here? Raise your hand. How many of you hope a college coach is, wow, only like 5 or 6 of you? How about this? Now, I'm not going to make you raise your hand on this one, but how many of you see that school that you desperately want to go to? That's your dream school. Let's say it's Duke. Not that that's a great place to go to school or anything. But let's say you see the Duke coach over there. Now all of a sudden, what happens? How do we start playing a lot of times when we see that coach over there that's watching us, and now we start thinking, oh my gosh, there they are. They're watching me play. What do we start to do? We start to guide the ball. We start to play not to mess up. And I'm telling you, if you do that, that's probably what's going to happen. So here's what you need to do. You need to start acting like you want that coach to come watch you. You need to be thinking, I hope Coach Danowski is here to watch me today. I hope Coach Kimball is here to watch me today. I hope Coach so-and-so comes and watches me today. Bring it on. I'm not saying you go to the coach and say, yo, bring it on, but I want you to think, watch me. Because at the end of the day, wouldn't you rather than be there than not be there? If they're not watching you, wouldn't you rather than be there? So you got to act that way. You guys go watch a video. Any Philadelphia Eagle fans here? We got any Philadelphia Eagle fans? A couple of you? Yes. Brian Dawkins. You ever heard that name? Probably be a Hall of Famer. Here's a guy who is really meek and mild and never swears. Really upstanding Christian guy. Really nice guy. But when he steps out onto that field, he will literally knock your head off. He will literally destroy you. He acts differently than who he is every day. As a matter of fact, he had an alter ego for himself. He called himself the Wolverine from X Games. He even had a separate locker for him. He had a separate locker in the locker room that had Wolverine. He would paint his breathe right stripes just a certain color. He would put oil on his guns here to make them glisten a little bit and to get a little bit bigger. And he starts transforming into that. And if you ever go back and watch some of the video of him, you can see in those tunnels where they got the smoke and they introduce the guys as they come out onto the field one at a time. Brian Dawkins comes out on all fours like Wolverine. Wouldn't that be cool if you did that? Wow, that would be awesome. You run out there onto the field on all fours, and the guy you're getting ready to line up against is going, he's about to poop his pants watching you do this. I guarantee you could have a huge impact on those people. But you know what? For the next 4 hours, this guy played the part. The part required him to be aggressive and confident and cocky. That's not who he was in everyday life. See, I think being an athlete, sometimes you got to act the part. The part requires you to be confident. It requires you to be aggressive, just like actors. You got to act the part sometimes. So think about what you need to do, and you need to act that way sometimes. It's really, really important. We got to move on here. How about pressure? How about pressure? You guys ever feel pressure? Tell the person next to you who you just talked to, where does pressure come from for you? Where do you feel pressure? You guys talk about that for a second. Where do we feel the pressure? And when? When do we feel pressure? All right. So for time's sake, we're going to move on. How about this, guys? How about if we took everybody in this tent right here? I don't know, there's maybe 40, 50 of us, I don't know. And I were to say, you know what? We're going to put us all on a bus. We're going to put us on a bus over here. They got a bus waiting for us. And they're going to take us over here to the airport. And when we get to the airport, they're going to put us on an airplane. We got no choice. All of us are going. And when you look on your seat, there's a parachute in your seat. They have paratroopers in there, and they're going to teach us how to skydive from the time we take off until 12,000 feet. And at 12,000 feet, they're kicking every one of us out the back door. Solo. Some of you right now are thinking, that sounds awesome. Sign me up. Who are you? Who's saying yes? Some of you are thinking, oh my God, no thanks, I'm going to die. Anybody there? No thanks? Yeah. Think about it. It's the exact same situation. Some of you look at it like, this is awesome. Some of you look at it like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. You girls, it's an 8-meter shot. There's 2 seconds left in the game and the score's tied. You're the goalie. Are you looking at that like, this is awesome? Or are you looking at that like, please God, don't let me screw this up? Or you're a guy and you're playing, your team's playing, you're a defender. They win the face-off and they're coming your way. We got 20 seconds left in the game. Are you thinking, are you tight and are you worried? Are you thinking, please don't let me mess this up? Don't get beat? And by the way, if you say don't get beat, what's going to happen to you? You're going to get beat. That's like me telling you, don't think about what you had for lunch today. How's that going for you? Don't think about pink elephants. Don't do it. Don't think about pink elephants. How hard's that? Here's what happened. Your body doesn't hear the word don't. Your body hears what comes after it. But mess the shot, right? Or whatever you might say. Don't say the word don't. You can tell yourself what you want to do. So it's not the situation. It's not your coach. None of that stuff puts pressure on you. Guess where pressure comes from? That little 6-inch space between your ears. That's where pressure comes from. And if you want to be great at this thing, you want to be a champion, guess what, guys? Guess what? It's going to be filled with pressure. It's going to be filled with expectation. You want to win a championship? Man, there's going to be a lot of pressure. I hope you came here thinking you hope your team wins a championship. You're going to be there. Boy, there's going to be a big crowd. There's going to be people watching you. It's going to be a lot of pressure. But I would also tell you, is there something different in playing for a championship and then playing in a game like 2 weeks into your season? Are there things that are different about playing in a championship? Anybody can answer this. What's different about playing for a championship than playing 2 weeks into your season? What's different about that? Yes? Wow, yeah, very good. Yeah, 2 weeks in, you don't know what we're capable of and what we can do. What else? What's different? What's different about doing a championship game in 2 weeks in? We lose 2 weeks in, we still got time to make it up, right? So the finality of it at the end, right? Yes. Expectations are different. Would you guys agree with that? Expectations are different. Here's something, parents, you can help your kids with this. Athletes, I hope you really start to think about this. What I found is in those pressure moments, in those championship situations, the people that do well, the people that excel, the people that do great, don't go into those things thinking, I gotta be special. I gotta be great tonight. I have to do this. Because here's the deal, when you start thinking that you have to be special because this situation is special, you're not going to perform well. What we do where I am, the week of a championship, what we'll do is we'll go in on a whiteboard and we'll ask the athletes, what's different about this game? And they'll say all the things you guys said. The finality of it, there's a bigger crowd, there's more media, on and on and on. And guess what? Then we ask the athletes, how many of these things do you have control over? 0. They have no control over none. They have no control over any of those. So what happens is, we start focusing on things we don't have control over, so therefore you got to be special. So what we say, those things have nothing to do with how we do our thing. We're just going to go be ourselves, and we're going to be just fine. That's how you excel in those situations, all right? So pressure comes from within. Athletes, I want to back up real briefly with the whole confidence thing. How about talking to yourself? I think talking to yourself is a big thing. Athletes, I'd like for you to try this with somebody right next to you. If it's a parent, so what? I want you to do this. I want you to think about a time you made a mistake. You blew it. You embarrassed yourself. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to act like that person sitting next to you made your mistake. And I want you to talk to them out loud, just like you talk to yourself. I want you to say all the negative things to them that you say to yourself. If you say you're an idiot, I want you to say you're an idiot. You're the worst lacrosse player I've ever seen. You suck. You this. Don't hold anything back. I want you to let them have it. And don't say I typically say this. I want you to say, wow, you, whatever those things you say to yourself, I want you to say to them. Go. Quickly, do that. It's your opportunity to talk to mom and dad the way you would never talk to them. So, athletes, let me ask you guys something real quickly about this. Athletes, what if every time you made a mistake, the same kid came up to you out there on the field, your same teammate, came up there to you and started talking to you the way you talk to yourself? What would you do? What would you do? Yes, I'd say you cry, or we've had the first brawl in lacrosse history. You guys would punch them. How many of you talk to your teammates the way you talk to yourself? Most of you would never do that. How come? Because you're going to destroy their confidence. Here's the thing. How you talk to yourself affects your confidence. Athletes, those of you thinking you want these college coaches to watch you, here's the deal. They're watching to see what you do when you don't play well. When you make a mistake, they're watching. They're watching you. If you have somebody film you, I would encourage you to watch yourself, your body language, when you're not playing well. Can you tell if you're playing amazing versus when you play great? If you can tell by watching yourself on video, you're not very mentally tough. It takes a much more mentally tough athlete to make a mistake, keep your head up, and focus on the next play. That's mental toughness. You hang your head, you do this. By the way, our men's lacrosse team, we have 3 non-negotiables. One of them is no palms up. You never get to do this. You don't get to do that to anybody. Because you do that, you're whining to somebody. To your teammate, to an official, to a coach. We instituted that, and a week later there's a picture of Coach Danowski doing this. It was awesome. He's got it on his desk. Just as a reminder, he's got to model that. It's a habit. Don't do that. Don't hang your head. I'm telling you, they're watching you. And if I'm your opponent and I see you do that, what does that do for me? Man, that elevates my game. I can be dead dog tired, but I see you getting frustrated. You've motivated me. How about your teammates? How does that affect them? What do you think? Totally affects your teammates in a negative way. Don't let anybody see you're struggling. And I would tell you, if you're thinking about a mistake for more than 3 seconds, guys, we call it the 3-second rule. 1001, 1002, 1003. If you're thinking about it longer than that, you're not being mentally tough. Some of you think about it for 20 minutes. Something happens in the first half, you're still beating yourself up about it in the second half. And there's no way you can be fully engaged in what you're doing. You can't do that. I'm going to teach you 2 ways real quickly. I have about 5 or 6, but I'm going to teach you 2 real quickly that we use, and it's very effective. One of them is right here. Watch some baseball players after they have a bad swing at a pitch. They'll step out of the batter's box and they'll do this. Or you watch some of our men's basketball players, they'll do this. They don't hold their hand up here, they'll just do it just like this. And something you do every day. They're flushing the toilet. They're flushing that mistake down the toilet. Another one is we do this right here. Olympic, college, professional athletes. And it's like when you were 5 years old and you go to a birthday party. And you go to that birthday party, and when you're leaving, they give you a balloon. You pick out your favorite color. It's got a string attached to it, helium in that balloon. And guess what? Mom wasn't smart enough to tie that thing around your wrist. So by the time you get to the car, what's happened to that balloon? It's gone. Professional athletes look at their mistake like that. You can just do it right down here. Maybe you snap your finger. You can snap your leg. You can just flick your finger like that. Do something physical to let that mistake go. And then, talk to yourself in a way you've talked to one of your teammates. Hey, you got this. You're going to be fine. Keep your head up. We're right here. There we go. You got this. Guess what? That's what you got to do with yourself. It's really, really important. Last thing, athletes. And athletes, I'm going to ask you to help me when we talk to the parents here real quickly. Parents, what is your child's role when he or she's on the bench? What is their role when they're on the bench? Support their teammates, right? Athletes, would you guys agree with that? Your role when you're on the bench is to support your teammates. So parents, do you want your kids to learn teamwork as a result of being a part of athletics? What do you think? Do we want our kids to learn teamwork? Yeah. I'd say we really don't. We want everybody else's kid to learn teamwork. We don't really want our own children to learn teamwork. Here's the deal, parents. Your son or daughter's on the bench. They're not playing well. Coach pulls them out. You're upset. Your kid's upset. You think that kid should be playing. Your daughter or your son is over here. Everybody else is into the game except for your son. He's pouting. What message, athletes, are you sending when you're on the bench? Everybody else is cheering on their teammates, but you are pouting. What message? Who's it about? You or the team? What message are you telling everybody in the whole stadium? It's about you. It's about you. If you played basketball at Duke University, you would never play if that was you. See, we film the bench during a game. There's a camera on the bench the whole time looking to see what you do. There's a young man who graduated now and plays in the NBA. His name's Quinn Cook. Great kid. Freshman, senior, captain, starting 2 guard. They won a national championship. As a freshman, that kid hardly ever played. Hardly ever played. They're down in a preseason tournament down in Hawaii. Quinn's got a towel over his head. He's not high-fiving his teammates. He's sulking. He's pouting. They come home. Coach calls him in his office. Didn't say anything. Just turns the videotape on. And there's Quinn. Got a hat over his head, towel over his head. Not high-fiving his teammates. He's pouting. Coach turns the tape off and says, Quinn, you have a choice. You can change that, or you can transfer now, because I promise you, you will never step on that floor again as a Duke basketball player if you don't change that. Because what you're doing is you're telling everybody in America that you think you're more important than our team. It's not about you, Quinn. It's about us. It's about your teammates. So athletes, do not do that. Athletes, when you play, your team wins, but you don't play well. Let's say this week, you go out there, you play, your team plays well, they win, but you don't play well, you have a bad game. Afterwards, everybody's kind of celebrating and kind of encouraging each other, and you've separated yourself. Maybe your teammates got to come up and console you because you didn't play well. Hey, that's okay, don't worry about it. You'll get it next time. You're a selfish athlete. Don't do that. And on your club teams and on your high school teams, guys, there's only 3 people that are going to remember your stats at the end of the year. There's only 3 people that are going to remember your individual stats. Any idea who those 3 people are? You're one of them. And who are the other 2? Mom and Dad. That's it. Nobody else is going to remember how many ground balls you win or how many goals you score. Nobody's going to remember that stuff. Your teammates are going to remember what you like to be around every day. Okay? So you got to make sure you're a really good teammate. All right? So parents, I have a good friend who said he's all about teamwork. As long as the 4 best, his son play basketball. As long as the 4 best kids and my kid are out there, I'm all over teamwork. I think that's really how we are when it comes to teamwork. When your child is struggling, what do we want to do when our children struggle? What do we want to do? Don't we want to swoop in and fix it for them? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That's not a good thing. Parents, talk about these kids today. How do we talk about these kids today compared to us when we were kids? These kids today are what compared to us? Pampered. What else do we say? I hear entitled. I hear spoiled. I hear lazy. Coaches are even worse than that when they talk about kids today. Here's a great quote about kids today. Kids today, they love luxury, they have bad manners, contempt of authority, show disrespect for their elders, they'd rather sit around than exercise, they don't stand up when elders in the room, it goes on and on and on. It's attributed to Socrates back in 399 BC. See, I think every generation of adults talks about the next one in the same way. Our parents said we were entitled. Am I right? Our parents said we were spoiled. Our parents said you guys don't know what work ethic is. Our parents said television is going to ruin your life. Just like but 2 things have changed. I think deep down these kids in this room are very much the same. Technology has changed, and I think we have changed. We are much more involved in our kids' lives. Would you guys agree with that? Than our parents were? Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes not so much. So parents, here's a couple things. They have labels for us. See if you see yourself in any of these very quickly. Helicopter parent. You see yourself? We hover all the time, right? We know about those. How about the karaoke parent? These guys want to look and sound like their kids. They hunger to be buddy with them. They don't want to lose their sense of being in style. It's more about being their friend than it is about being a parent. The other one called a monster parent. Here's what happens. We transform it or rage it back into a corner. We will apply for colleges and jobs for our kids so that they can get ahead in life. And we argue over the grades because we're the ones that did the work. How dare you give my son a bad grade on that project? Think about that. Another one is the bulldozer parent. Think about this one. We bulldoze everything in their way. We clear the path. We prepare the path for our children rather than preparing our children for the path. So what we do is we clear all their obstacles. We want to swoop in and save them. And what we do is we create learned helplessness, and we create children who struggle with resilience and the ability to advocate for themselves. Parents, how old should our kids be when we start making them talk to the coach instead of us talking to the coach? Or them going to talk to their teacher instead of us talking to their teacher? How old should they be? What do you think? I would argue no later than 6th grade. Middle school on, these kids right here in this room should be talking to their coach first, not us. If they have a problem, you can role play with them. Role play. You be the coach, they be themselves, and you talk about that with them. Okay? What a great lesson for life for them to be able to do that. That's really, really important. How about sportsmanship? Do we want our little kids to learn sportsmanship? Somebody tell me, do anybody want your kids to learn sportsmanship? How about Chicago Cubs? Anybody a Cubs fan? Who are the Cubs fans here? Anybody? We got any Philly fans? We got any, who else we got? Red Sox? Mets? We're the Mets fans. Yes, all right. So any of those games, you go sit in the outfield. You go sit in the outfield and take your 6-year-old son with you. Is your kid going to learn great sportsmanship sitting in the outfield at a pro baseball game? What do you think? You suck! You're a bum! That's dad, then there goes the kid. Yes, you suck! You're a bum! They don't know who they're yelling at, but somebody sucks and they're a bum. I'm telling you, if we want our kids to learn sportsmanship, I think we have to model it. So parents, are we modeling sportsmanship? Are you in the way you interact with officials during games? Think about it. My son, the one that's not here, he's a rising 9th grader, played goalie. We were in the crab feast or fest, or I don't know what that tournament was a few weeks ago. We were there. I'm watching another team play before my son plays, and the official stops the game in the middle of the game and says, "Sir, we're not going to continue this game until you leave the premises." He was standing right there on the sidelines, and all he was doing was chirping at the officials. Think about that young man whose son that was out there on that field. How embarrassed was that kid. I'm going to encourage you, don't be that dad. We waited 3.5 minutes. I timed it. 3.5 minutes for that guy to leave before these kids can continue to play. I'm saying if sportsmanship is important, we got to model that for our kids, all right? I would also say, be careful while we're standing on the sidelines over here. Be careful about talking bad about other kids. I hear it all the time. Oh my God, don't put that kid in. She's going to kill us. She can't play. We're definitely going to lose now. And guess where that kid's parents are sitting or standing? Right over there. Don't do that. We can't do that. It's important. Parents, there's a boys soccer game. Boys soccer in Durham, North Carolina, varsity level. All the parents show up. Everybody's given a lollipop. What are you supposed to do with that lollipop? Stick it in your mouth. And if they come up and offer you a second lollipop, that's a pretty good indication you're out of control, right? Parents, if your spouse or significant other won't sit or stand next to you during a game because of the way you do things, that's probably an indication we need to change things. Think about that. The people that love us the most won't be able to sit next to us. So I'm going to encourage you to be careful about that. Parents, I think it's important that we have a life outside our kids' sports. Do we struggle with that a little bit? I have a good friend whose son is 13, and he says, I just wish my mom and dad had a different hobby other than me. Like, have a life, right? So parents, what are some signs we might not have a life outside our kids' sports? What are some signs, you think? Go to practice every day. Why do we go to practice every day? We can watch our kids. We make sure that everything's going well. How about this? Practice. Kids, 9 years old and above, I'm saying, don't go to their practice anymore. Some of you can disagree with me. I just want you to think, why are you going to their practice? If I ask the athletes in this room, how many of you love it when mom or dad come to all your practices? They either don't care or they don't want you there. If we go, it's for us. But what a great lesson for them. Hey, you go do your thing. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go for a walk. Or I'm going to go to Home Depot. Actually, I'm going to go get my nails done. I'll be back here in an hour and pick you up. You go do your thing. I'm going to go do my thing. Even if you drive 2 hours to take your kid to practice, go find a Starbucks. Go read a book. Go do something so that you're not where they are when you're doing that. I would encourage you, what are some other signs you don't have a life? You're here listening to me, right? I totally get it. How about if you wear your son's wrestling medals? I'm just going to challenge you. You don't have a life. No doubt about it. Just do that inside the house. Don't take that outside anywhere. If you keep stats during competition, when you film, why are you filming? Just think about why you're filming. Be careful. If all you talk about at the dinner table is your child's sports, be careful, okay? I'm going to encourage you that we need to have a life outside our kids' sports. It's hard because our kids are now commodities because we're giving up our lives, we're giving up our weekends, we're giving up our summers, we're giving up our vacations so that you can chase your dream. And so now you're a commodity and I'm investing in you and I'm hoping to get a return on that investment someday. That's how we treat it. And we become too invested. I think, don't we all live vicariously through our children at some level? Don't we feel good when they feel good? Yes. I have a son who plays lacrosse. He plays football in the fall, plays tailback. He's a point guard in basketball, and he plays lacrosse in the spring. And by the way, don't specialize in lacrosse, guys. You need to play at least 2 sports as long as you can. 95% of our athletes at Duke played at least 2 sports all the way through high school. All but one of our guys on the men's team played 2 sports all the way through high school. But my son, he's pretty fast. And when he scores as a tailback in football, he gets to the outside, boy, I just feel my chest get a little bit bigger. Because that's Great Dale's son right there. Look at that. And what makes me feel good when people come up to me and say, your son's really good. Your son's really fast. I got to tell you, his mother happened to be an All-American sprinter at the University of North Carolina, so that might be why the kid's fast, but I still like to think that's my boy out there. I'm going to encourage you, be careful about doing it too much. We can take it too far because we're investing so much in these kids. Last thing I want to talk about real quickly, 2 things. Athletes, raise your hand if you love it, if mom or dad continually coach you from the sidelines during a game. Raise your hand if you love that. Parents, I've never had one kid say, oh my gosh, yes, please, tell dad to keep doing that. I love that. Parents, parents, we are not helpful when we do that. Parents, here's what I want you to try to do tonight when you guys go to dinner. Here's what I want you to try to do. When you're at dinner, I want you to be fully engaged in the conversation at your table. And I also want you to be fully engaged in the table over here and the table over there all at the same time. That's kind of like it is out here. I'm on the field right here. I'm listening to the dad, and I'm trying to listen to coach all at the same time. I want you to see how that works for you tonight when you go do that. And by the way, you're not tired, and you're under no pressure. Their ability to focus when they're tired and under pressure becomes even more diminished. Parents, ask yourself, why are we coaching our kids from the sidelines? I would say we're more of a distraction, it's more for us. And how about this? So parents, just this for these 2 days of this tournament, how about you try to commit to this? No more verbs when you're watching your kid play a game. Think about it. No more verbs. What are the verbs we use when we watch our kids play? What are they? Run, pass, shoot, catch the ball, block. What's that? Talk. Wheels. I'm convinced wheels is a verb. It's definitely a verb. Think about it. And we're telling pass when the coach might be telling them to hold on to the ball. We're telling them to dodge, and the coach is saying, hey, we got to run the offense. We're telling them something totally different many times. So nobody raised their hand, okay? So be careful. How about positive attitudes? Great shot. Great run. Way to dodge. Well done. Just try to do that, all right? How about this? Before they go play, try this. Don't tell them, hey, make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. Make sure you do this. They've already got a coach telling them what to do. We are already overloading them with information. I have a good friend. Here's what he does. His son is a sophomore. He used to coach his kid now when he was younger. He doesn't coach him anymore. Anybody coach your own kids in anything? Yeah. Who are we harder on, our own kids or everybody else? Our own kids, right? Our own kids. I've coached my kids. We don't want to show favoritism. We have higher expectations for them. But I've seen it ruin people's relationships. If you're a coach of your kid, be careful. I've seen it ruin. I have a good friend who's a pro football player. If I said his name, you'd recognize this guy. He's an NFL quarterback. Doesn't have a good relationship with his dad to this day because dad didn't know how to separate being dad and being coach. Brett Favre. Who knows Brett Favre? You ever heard that name? Yes. Yes, Brett Favre. I don't know if you saw his induction speech last year into the Hall of Fame. I'm on the National Advisory Board there for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, so I have the good fortune to be able to go to those ceremonies. I'm there sitting about 20 rows away. And this 55-year-old grandfather is talking about his life. His dad was his coach. His dad is dead. He said, you know what? My dad never once told me I was good enough. Not once did he tell me I was good enough. He starts crying. And he looks up into the heavens and he says, you know what, Dad? I hope you think I'm good enough now. How sad is that? He's a grandfather and he still doesn't know he's good enough. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It can't be that way. And we are their parent. We are not their coach. So how about this? Why don't you try, like my friend? Go have fun. Go get him. Go have fun. While he watches him, he doesn't coach him, he encourages him after it's over. First time he sees him, he gives him a fist bump. They used to hug, but now he's a teenager, so they do the fist bump thing. Athletes, raise your hand. If after a game is over and you don't play well, you love it when you get in that car ride and there goes Dad. What were you thinking when you did that? How come you did this? What were you doing when you did that? I see it. I saw it when I was driving in. I saw at least 4 dads with their daughters walking out to the car. I had my window down and all 4 dads were getting after their kids right after it was over. You should have seen the body language on those teenage girls. Totally tuning you out. I work with professional Olympic and college athletes. And by the way, I didn't see an athlete raise their hand and say they love it when we do that. I would argue we're selfish as parents when we do that. They need space. They're emotional. We're emotional. Give them space. So here's what my friend does. He says, you want me to be your coach right now? Or you just want me to be your dad right now? And when the kid says, I just want you to be my dad, they don't talk about it. He lets it lie. He's in that car. He says, I'm grabbing that steering wheel thinking, I want to say something right now, but I don't do it. And he says, you know what? We always come back and talk about it. He'll come to me. It might be later that night, might be the next morning, and say, so what do you think? And then I can talk to him. He's open now. He's listening. He's going to be much more likely to hear what I have to say because now he's doing that. I'm going to encourage you, be careful about doing that as a parent, all right? None of them really like that. All right, parents, I hope I affirmed you here. Hope I made you feel good. I hope I challenged you to maybe think, hey, I probably got to do this a little bit differently maybe. Maybe some of you are thinking, wow, I screwed up on the first one. I'm glad we got another one coming along and we can kind of do things differently with that one. Whatever it is, athletes, where does confidence come from? Where does it come from, athletes? Yourself, right? How long do you think about a mistake? 3 seconds, right? Where does pressure come from? Yourself, right? Nowhere else. It comes from you. I will tell you guys, I want to do a very quick selling job. I have written a few books. I have 2 of them here. I've written one for athletes. It's called It's a Mental Thing. It's only 100 pages, big print, and lots of pictures. It doesn't take long to read. I've also written one for parents. It's only 100 pages, big print, lots of pictures. But there's a place for you to evaluate yourself in here, parents. And on the next page, there's a place for your 15-year-old daughter to give you feedback based on the stuff that we talked about. Maybe she gives you great marks on everything but Mom and Dad coached me too much from the sidelines, or Mom and Dad talked to me right after a bad performance. But whether you, and either one of these are $10 if you're interested today. I'll be here again tomorrow. I want you to take something down. My phone number is 919-812-7432. 919-812-7432. If you're ever interested in texting me about any of the stuff that we talked about, maybe something comes up and you want to ask somebody a question about something, I'll tell you again, 919-812-7432. And the email is gdale@duke.edu. gdale@duke.edu. 919-812-7432 or gdale@duke.edu. So if you ever have questions or comments or anything, please feel free to do that. What time we got? Somebody tell me. 4:50. So you're welcome to leave. If you want to stick around and ask questions, I'll do that. If you want to get a book, I'll be happy to help you with that as well. But thank you very much for your time, guys. Appreciate it.